Hey guys, how's everybody doing this Friday? Katie here. Hope everybody is doing well and happy Friday to everybody. I hope you guys are feeling good and staying healthy during this horrible Raspberry Festival. Tonight I am going to answer, or I will be answering a couple of questions regarding my tasting characters. I know, I promised last week we were gonna do this, but I thought it was, with the time constraints and some other things that cropped up, and this gave the opportunity for me to really evaluate some of these characters that you guys keep asking me about different tastes, and why do I like them, and why are they so important to me, you know, stuff like that. A lot of people have been, for the most part, asking me what characters do I like and what do they mean to me as an artist and as a person. And since I'm the type of person who's very complex and I love a lot, there is an array of things that I love. Um, Picking one particular character was not possible. Actually, the question originally was, what particular character did I like or was most influential to me? And throughout my life, I've been exposed to various different stories, video games, and definitely anime and manga. There was no chance that was going to happen. To whittle it down to just one character was just not possible. So I decided to do like a top 10 characters, um, character list. Yes, it's like character list, and everybody's probably tired of all these top 10, top 10. But hey, what can I say? It's a lot more easier this way. Um, so anyway, without further ado, we can get started. Oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. A slight disclaimer. Um, there's, I'm going before I get into grand detail and sort of like the groundwork and the foundation of these characters. All these characters, um, all these characters really mean a lot to me. But, however, remember, this is from my point of view. So unfortunately, there's going to be some characters here that you guys might like and feel that they deserve to be much more higher on the list. But technically, this is based around how I feel, how much of a huge impression they had on me from a kid all the way up to as an adult. So just a little warning for you guys out there. So you know what? Let's get started. So the first character that I'm going to start with, which is number 10, is Goku from Dragon Ball Z, or just the Dragon Ball series. Um, for Goku to be very influential, of course, he came in during the huge anime revolution when Tsunami first came to our shores. And the reason why I loved about him was not only the fact that his design was very unique versus the superheroes that I grew up with, which is the Marvel superheroes and the DC superheroes. Not only his design was very unusual, but mainly that made Goku Goku was not only the fact that he was just really a sweet guy and curious and kinda airheaded, but it was like you always were going on an adventure with him. And also, he was not perfect. One of the biggest things about being a superhero in many cases, which made Goku so down to earth, was he had to work to get where he is. Even though I might not necessarily share the same feelings as I do later on in Dragon Ball Super, please, take it easy, people. To be fair, I have not seen Dragon Ball Super, so I can't necessarily say that fully. However, based on the information that I've gotten from Dragon Ball all the way up to Dragon Ball GT, yes, I'm mentioning Dragon Ball GT. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but it's non-canon and it's debunked and it was horrible. There were in my opinion, there were certain aspects of GT that I actually did enjoy. So yeah, I'm less of the consensus of Dragon Ball GT being god awfully the worst. But that's not the point. One of the reasons why I love Goku so much as a kid, and even to this very day, based on the series that I did watch, was he was a flawed hero. There were many times where he got beaten up. There were many times where he lost his life and did what he had to do in order to save the universe. But despite how many times he basically fell on his butt, got beaten up, um, even died, he still managed to pull through. He still managed to work hard to get to this other level that he keeps mentioning about, and working towards that level, especially during the Saiyan arc and the Frieza arc and the Cell arc. Those are probably all my favorite arcs. In Dragon Ball Z, period. That Goku had to train. He trained a lot before he had to deal with the Saiyan, even after death. And he also sacrificed himself when he partnered up with Piccolo to take on his brother Raditz, which, of course, like any good hero, he sacrificed himself for the sake of his son, as well as the people that he cared about. And then when he had to get back to Earth from the other plane during Snake Way, he had to basically run and try his darnest to get over this obstacle so he can get back to his family and defend them again. He didn't care that it was dangerous, it was risky, and what have you. He did what he had to do in order to protect the people he loved, and that's a trait that I really admire so much. And the fact that I know a lot of people compare him to Superman. There are certain traits, they come from two dying worlds. Superman comes from Krypton, Goku comes from the planet Vegeta. But the difference what makes Superman is he's super technically all the time. Goku, technically he was the runt. Yeah, sure, he was sent to the planet to basically destroy and, make it a total wasteland for others to inhabit, but, you know, he didn't have a lot of power when he was younger. He had to work really hard at the Kame House during the Dragon Ball series. All the training he had to do. And that's what makes it different between Suits and Goku. Hi, Dustin. Thank you so much for coming to visit. But yes, that's one of the reasons why I love Goku so much is because he worked hard where he had to go. And that imprinted on me or influenced me to work hard to get where I need to go. That I couldn't necessarily give up because things looked dodgy, because of how many times self-doubt or other people would tell me, you can't do this, you can't do that, or how things looked really, really bad. So, yeah, that perseverance aspect, I have to say that I give Goku a lot of credit for that. So, yeah, Goku is definitely number 10 on my list. So moving on, as much as I would like to, gush over Goku pretty much, the next person on the list for the one who occupies slot 9 is Chun-Li. Now, if you guys didn't know, originally, yes, I was a comic book head because of my father, because he, used to read me all the comic books at night, and I spent a lot of time with my brothers, or my brothers, and they really loved all different types of comics books, including mainly the Marvel comics. But first and foremost, I was a gamer. Um, the first thing that I did that would be considered anything of geekdom was pretty much gaming. And as you can guess where I'm going with this, one of the most popular fighting games, or the fighting game that I actually started out with, was Chun-Li. Now, a lot of cases, again, when you are in certain facets of the geek community, especially during my time, a lot of cases you as a female you were not included. I hate to say it, but that's how it was. We were not included. Video games were engineered and basically a guy thing. And what happened, which sort of broke me or broke away from that particular idea, was when I was introduced to Chun-Li. Chun-Li was one of the first was the female fighter that I've ever been exposed to. Yeah, sure, some people might argue, well, you had Super Mario, why not Princess Peach? Well, Princess Peach was a princess. Only until you played the mysterious Mario Brothers 2, you actually got to play with it. But, a lot of cases it was the Mario Brothers. It wasn't Peach's Adventure or anything like that. It was mainly the Mario Brothers. But Chun-Li was a distinct fighter that represented, at that time, all of China. She for all those who don't know or don't know the history of it, and basically, I don't know if it still runs this way. I haven't played Street Fighter in a very long time, but if you look at the map in the video game, there are certain places in the whole entire world where it's represented by each fighter. Chun-Li, being the first female in the Street Fighting genre, represented all of China. And to have sort of a female character in a fighting game like that, especially when it was predominantly for guys, caused my brain to go because, a lot of people are saying, well, you can't play that because you're a girl. Well, you have a female fighter here. And it's like, it can't be all dudes if you have a female fighter. I know that's a terrible idea that, a girl has to play a girl fighter, but, no, you should be able to play whatever you want. But that's what was my immature thinking when I was younger. That this was a character that kind of broke the barrier that, hey, these video games are just engineered for guys. It's not the quote unquote uh, the princess that you hear about and never talk about ever again. You never see her again until like towards the end of the game. But no, Chun-Li is a character that you see quite often throughout the series, throughout the game. And she has her own agency in a way. I mean, as I got older, I started to understand things a little bit more, but she was more prevalent. She didn't necessarily have to have a guy to come rescue her because she had the capability. She knew how to defend herself. And I thought that was really cool when I was little. Plus, I love her design. Her design, the blue attire with puffy sleeves. I love it. And the spiky bracelets. They were really cool when I first saw her. It was just so wonderful to see her. So yeah, Chun-Li was a huge influence in the video game genre for me. And with that, we move on to uh, slot 8. Now, slot 8 is kind of more recent, I guess mid-road of my sort of manga and anime fandom, or both into the fandom. And it's pretty technically on the nose if you guys know me very, very well. But um, slot 8 is a tie towards both of my husbandos, Alucard from Helsing and Sebastian Michaelis from Black Butler. Now, I know it seems really obvious. Oh my goodness, she put her two husbandos. I didn't include Adrian Tepes, aka Alucard from Castlevania, because he's fairly recent. Mainly this list is more for characters overall during my span. Probably later on, if I decide to update this, maybe Adrian Tepes will actually make an appearance. But for now, we're just going for characters that I've dealt with or had a huge influence or has a huge influence on me in the past. And mainly, Slot A belongs to Alpha and Sebastian. Why, you might ask? Because these two well, first of all, their intrigue and their design and their allure introduced me to a world of a completely different type of anime. I'm used to the magical girls, the superheroes, well, not the superheroes, the heroes, the great protagonists, and every very shonen and magical girl based anime that you can actually think of. From Card Captors to Sakura to Sailor Moon, and then shonen all the way from Dragon Ball Z to Bleach. Which, by the way, I'm not completely finished rewatching Bleach, so anyway, but they were all very hopeful. They're all very cheery. Um uh they're all very cheery. They're all very lighthearted. With the introduction of Alucard and Sebastian Michaelis, not only the fact that I was adored by them because of their character design and what they kind of stood for that forbidden aspect of the human heart or the human condition, but it introduced me to an anime that wasn't necessarily so lighthearted, that it was racked with darkness, it was racked with tragedy, it was racked with drama and a huge body count. So, it's something that I wasn't necessarily um something that I'm accustomed to. And after basically watching those two animes and having those particular two characters in the forefront as protagonists, it awakened something within me in a sense to appreciate all different types of anime. That not all anime has to be such light-hearted stories. It can be dark. It can be really edgy. It could be self-loathing. It could go into the gothic semi-horror because me personally, I do not like horror. I'm terrible at horror. Like I'm a total scaredy cat when it comes to horror. Um, well, thank you, Justin. But yeah, I, when it comes to Alucard and Sebastian, they kind of led me through this dark forest of a dark version of anime, and I do not regret it at all. It's something that I love to this very day, and it reminds me a lot of when my mom used to would read me the Grimm fairy tale stories. Of course, it was the more PG version, but as I got older, it started to go into that realm. And to see that there is a bright side to my face as well as a dark side to my face, and I embrace both sides with much appreciation and love. And that's one of the reasons why I love those two specifically. Now, that's just the anime itself. What about the characters? What about Alucard? And what about Sebastian? Them as characters, they are very intimidating, but it gives me an appreciation for subtlety. Because one thing is for sure that even though yes, Alucard has this Cthulhian rage that he deals with throughout some part of the show to the point where he has to kind of pull back a little bit and kind of reserve himself, but it gives me an appreciation for certain types of monsters. Like in anime, Alucard is a more refined monster. He is not all, rage and destruction and stuff like that. He is more of appearances mean nothing. He is a refined gentleman when he wants to be, and then he will let everything hang out when times get dodgy, when times get really scary, and times call for it. And instead of just having a mass murder, just killing people willy nilly in most cases, sometimes the most scariest thing is the ones that are more subdued. And I feel Sebastian and Alucard are two most excellent aspects of that. I know later on, I don't know if all these other animes came in the same time. I heard Monster was also a huge example of this, and I think it's later on in the anime genre. I could be wrong, of course, you guys can look that up. Please don't take my word as gospel, please. But by having a character like Alucard and later on Sebastian, you have characters like Mr. Lambert some monster, very subdued, and then he turned out to be this terrible, how he manipulates. And also, who doesn't like a very unique version or a unique take of Dracula? Everybody seems to really like Dracula. Heck, I'm no different. But yes, Sebastian and Alucard represent that aspect, represent the darker aspects of anime, and also the dark and white portion of oneself. And I feel that's interesting. To me, as far as understanding the human psyche in a way. So yeah, that's why Alucard and Sebastian occupy the eighth slot. So next one in that holds the seventh slot is Spider-Man, and I do mean both uh the Peter Parker version and Miles Morales version. Now, Miles Morales is a little bit more recent. I know a lot of people, well, you have Miles Morales and you don't have Alucard. Well, I mean Alucard when I mean he's recent, as in Alucard Tetris was recent like last year, recent, like late last year, recent. Miles Morales as well as Peter Parker a little bit later and would be considered a lot longer in the past, especially Peter Parker because Peter Parker, in my particular case, was the very first superhero that I ever liked. Um, he was very unique, and I know it's kind of weird that I'm arachnophobic, and I like Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man, and yet I have this particular unrational fear. There's certain aspects of arachnophobia. Anyway, well, Spider-Man, mainly Peter Parker, showed that any average guy can be a superhero. He was not middle age, he was your early 20s or your teen uh, man who was sort of a geek and still is a geek. He was really smart. He was picked on a lot, and then he was blessed by getting bit by a radioactive spider and became a superhero. That is very uncommon. Usually superheroes, especially in DC, they either are, the popular people, the ones who have finances, similar, Batman is a huge, uh, um, you would consider sort of like the in crowd when it comes to superheroes. The Justice League is more of the in crowd, if anything, for the most part. With Marvel, it's a little bit different. A lot of cases, they're characters that are considered to be the minority. They're a lot of cases they dealt with people that are considered outcasts. They're not part of the mainstream, and that's what really called out to me with Peter Parker. He was a geek guy, was not into the in crowd like myself, and he got superpowers. You got to go on these really cool adventures and fight all these really weird villains. It was amazing. And I was able to relate to him that, because of the fact that I have this geeky aspect of myself, I could still be great. I could still be useful. I could still mean something. Or my existence and what I do can mean something. And I feel that's very important. So when it comes to Peter Parker is like he's my first superhero. So what can I say? I I really like how um I really like how you know he really means that much to me. He really means that much. So on to Miles Morales. Now, Miles Morales, I know there was a huge uproar because I remember when I was in college when they announced the fact that they were changing Miles Morales to from Peter Parker, and how they were doing it was crazy because a lot of people were upset. How am I actually going to kill Peter Parker? And I know in the comics it was really convoluted. I felt that Into the Spider-Verse, they kind of fixed that aspect, so I was really happy with that. But for the most part, I still am reading through Miles Morales' story. But with Into the Spider-Verse, the movie, it made me really re-fall in love with Spider-Man because years had gone by after a while. I've seen Spider-Man in Marvel's Capcom and all these different iterations and movies and read several of the comics. They were all fun. I've seen the '90s version of Spider-Man, and I loved it and still love it. But I started getting into different things, more into video games, more into anime and manga. So I kind of left that love for him sort of on the back burner for a bit. And when Miles Morales came into picture, and I started to understand his point of view, I completely understand where it was coming from. Feeling that same not feeling like you still belong, and sort of trying to live up to somebody else's expectations. Like a lot of cases, especially with my age group, we deal with a lot of depression and anxiety because we had such high goals for ourselves when we got out of college, and then trying to find a job, which has been tough. And you look back of when you were younger and you had all these dreams, and you worry about the fact that you will never get a chance to do what you wanted to do, and sort of going into a leap of faith and trying different things. That's what Miles kind of taught me, that you have to have a leap of faith. You have to try different things, and you never know. Something might stick, and you might like it. And sure enough, during that same time, um, I was going through, various different jobs, healthcare jobs, for the most part, and none of them stuck. I was struggling. I used my artwork as a way to kind of, try to make ends meet. I worked a job that I really didn't like, and now, you know, but I didn't give up. Miles was the same way. He didn't give up. Even though he was trying to prove to his fellow spider people that he could do it, that he could, get everybody home and still save the day from Kanan. Even though there were many times where he wasn't ready. And sure enough, yeah, that's what it boiled down to. So both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, because of those two aspects of feeling at home with your victim and it's okay to be considered an outcast or considered not part of the in crowd, and then being okay to start again, to be okay to sort of like take a leap of faith and just, you know, um, try something new, even though your ideas from previously might not fit or might not work in this time frame, the way things are right now. But doesn't necessarily have to be the end of the story. And that's what I love about Miles Morales. So I love both of the Spider-Men very much so, and I can't wait to see more of Miles Morales. Because I heard that they're doing this too of Into the Spider-Verse. I'm so happy. Yay! So yeah. So next in the slot, now we're going into slot 6, which this one is more of a childhood favorite. Now I know that's kind of, well, what do you mean? You say Goku. Goku was practically your middle school years. Chun-Li was definitely your little kid years. Spider-Man was the very first superhero. What other childhood character that you like? And um, the character that I have to say that occupied slot 6 is my favorite childhood story and character, and that is Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Now, I know a lot of people like Alice in Wonderland. That doesn't seem so. You actually do. You love fantasy things, and you love the story of sort of like the fish out of water and being led to a different world. I can give you at least um, several different fictional stories off the top of my head. Actually, three right off the top right now of having a character, the fish out of water concept, was definitely from this story, Alice in Wonderland. Now, the reason why I love Alice is simply the adventure aspect, the curiosity, the fact that one of the reasons why I love science and like to learn about the things around me to this very day, I know that sounds, well, you're a certain age, or this idea that you have to be a certain age and know everything, when in reality you don't. You grow and you learn throughout your life. Start your life. It will continue to do that as long as you're here. And Alice is an example of full on unadulterated curiosity. In my view, how she was brought up to be a child who was seen, not heard. That's one of the Victorian era. If you even ask the older generation, they will tell you the same thing, that children were seen, not heard. And her love for the nonsense, the love for the curiosity and the endless amount of possibilities drives me not only as an artist and as a scientist, but drives me throughout life. It gets me really curious about the world around me, around people, and also the cultures that are different from us. So Alice implanted that in me, in a way, and encouraged me that hey, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to continue learning and not be ashamed about it. If you have to ask a billion questions, don't be afraid to ask. I mean, of course, my mother always, encouraged me to do so, but I felt this was a huge example of that particular lesson. And it's just great. I loved it. I love learning, I still love learning about the various different worlds that we live in, the microcosms, the different cultures, and even in media and in fiction. I continuously strive to look at various different worlds. So I can safely say that I've lived 1,000 lives, even more, because of that curiosity and her tenacity. Um, for a girl who basically lived in a world where children were seen, not heard, a lot of cases, she stood up to people that didn't, um, the best way I could say it, didn't seem right. Or, try to talk down to her like, oh, she's a child, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's like, no, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're not going to teach me this way. I guess that's also another thing that I liked about her, that even though she was curious and wanted to know the world around her, she didn't take crap from anybody. There were times, like especially towards the end of the story, where she was put on trial for stealing tarts, people. But of course, the Queen of Hearts is freaking petty, so that's no big surprise there. But yeah, towards the end, she gets really fed up about how terrible this trial is. That basically would be in the queen's favor no matter what, because everybody was technically afraid of her. And she wasn't going to stand for that. She wasn't going to sit there and um, take that. She made it a point to say no. And that's one of the reasons why I like about her. So between the sense of curiosity, the sense of um, yeah, the sense of curiosity, the sense of um, I guess you could say inner strength and telling it's okay to say no. she definitely, was a huge influence in that. And then also you could see so many different things that were influenced with Alice in Wonderland. And Alice in Wonderland is fine. If anybody says Alice in Wonderland was created by Disney, no, it wasn't. Listen, I love Disney's adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, but I love all different versions of Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is just an all-around fantasy story that should be enjoyed by anybody and could be used or given their interpretation of the adventures in Wonderland by anyone and should be enjoyed. It really should be enjoyed. And I actually there were quite a few adaptations that I still enjoy, like the what is it? Alice in the Country of Hearts, which is a manga, and they have various different versions of it, and it's sort of like a sort of like a dating. I won't say a dating sim, but it's similar to that fashion. Pandora Hearts uses elements from that. Of course, you have the recently Looking Glass and Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, also my personal favorite. American McGee's Alice, I love that series. So Alice in Wonderland, just her and the series is just it's just a wonderful tale, and everybody and anybody should be able to enjoy it. And Alice is definitely one of the most influential characters in my life. So thank you for that. So next in the roster, now we're getting towards the mid road here. This is now we're going into the top five of the most influential characters. And the person who occupies the fifth spot is Wonderland. Now, a lot of people are like saying, well, Wonder Woman. Well, there. If I was going, I knew when I was sitting down to do this list or do this live stream, there was no way in the world that I was going to do this list and not have Wonder Woman on here. And this is the reason why. Ever since I was a little kitten, I loved the story of the Amazons. The Amazons were great. To have a civilization based on just strong women that were not afraid to be who they were. Now, of course, as I got older, I started to understand things a little bit more, and it's like, now I wouldn't necessarily go. Well, I'm on the fence on the idea of the Amazons. It depends on how they are portrayed, because there's sometimes they're portrayed as some of the practices that they do are just extremely horrible, and it's like, oh my god. Then there's others they're depicted in a different light, which is fine. But overall, especially when I was younger, as a young lady, again, um, it was nice to see a positive element of being a female, especially in a genre which is predominantly guys. And especially when I was told a lot of cases you cannot do things or you won't be good at certain things because I was a girl. And like Chun-Li, Wonder Woman just exposed that myth that heroes can be female too, and that she was just as strong and as uh, can defend herself as much as the guys can, especially when she joined the Justice League. Queen's show was like Justice Friends, and the fact that she had an invisible plane and she had all these different gadgets and a lot of cases in the shows that I watched, especially with Super Friends and such, um, a lot of cases she ended up saving a lot of her fellow heroes, her fellow constituents. So it was like she was on par with her fellow heroes, which made it very, very interesting. And by having a hero like that, just emphasize that all the people that said that you couldn't do it because you're a woman, Well, if Wonder Woman and Chun-Li can do it, then why can't I? So, it just influenced me on that. And then on top of that, it's just nice to see, a different side of a woman. That, it's not necessarily just femininity, it could be also the animate side, which is considered to be more of the masculine aspect of a human being. But, I would say try to look that up a little bit more. Again, like I said, don't take my word as gospel. Research, research, research. So yes, Wonder Woman is definitely in that top spot. Very influential as a kid, and even though it was later on in life, and Spider-Man was a little bit more prevalent in my life because I grew up on a lot of Marvel. Still Wonder Woman was nice to have as a comfort in my life during my time of being, a kid. But moving on, now we're going into slot four. Now this is gonna get everybody to chuckle because you guys have heard me talk about this particular character from over and over and over again. Um, Throughout several animes that I've watched, several favorite animes that I've had. Actually, the previous live stream that I did, I talked about that, and it was just yeah. It basically the character I'm going to talk about for slot four is basically Ryuko Matoi from Solo Kill. Oh my goodness, Ryuko, one of my muses of recent years. Um, um, she came. Let's see. How can I describe my undying admiration for Ryuko Matoi? So since I make my own, or I'm so focused on making my own series, my own manga and anime and stuff. There's not many anime characters that really stick out uh in later years. I would have to say, what is it? Kill la Kill came out in 2013, so I would have to say the mid-teens. So, things started to change a lot uh, after the past decade versus the 90s anime now into the teens of the 2000s. Now that you have various types of streams, and you have various amounts of streams to pick from, to use to catch up on your anime fix. Uh, and there's like tons of anime content to choose from. When back in my day, not to sound, well, back in my day, but back in the early '90s, anime was very hard to come by, and because it was so hard to come by, that we didn't have a large amount of stuff. The studios and the animators had to come up with a really good concept, and that was it. There was no replay value. There was no endless of different seasons. They had one shot to make sure it stuck, and that was it. That was their only chance. And because of this, it seemed that every single anime that came out was a huge hitter. Was Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, uh, Ronin Warrior, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, and throughout my whole entire '90s, sort of the span of the '90s all the way up to the 2000s, there was not one anime that I've seen that I didn't like. I love Big O, I love Gundam Wing, I love Gundam G Gundam, I love Silent Mobius, and I love Better Man, and I love Blue Speed. There was no and there was every anime that I saw back in those days, I loved. I loved, I loved, I loved. But then as content becomes abundant, more abundant and plentiful, um, there's a lot more anime to choose from, and not necessarily all the anime will tickle your fancy. it's a different changing of gears that you can have sort of like a flop here. Oh, but there's another anime from the same studio that turned out to be a huge hit. You have that option where you have an abundance. And when Kill La Kill came out, I was at a point where I was a point in my life where I lost that streak. That not every anime that I watched was something that I liked. And I'm sorry for my fellow otaku fans that really like this anime, but I just got off of watching Attack on Titan. And boy, it left a really bad taste in my mouth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all my Attack on Titan fans. I still love you guys, but for me, it left a really bad taste in my mouth, and it was one of the first animes I can safely say that I didn't like, and that's a very unusual thing for me because, like I said, throughout the whole entire decade, throughout the whole entire from the '90s all the way to the mid teens, um, I liked almost every anime that I watched. There was no anime that I didn't like. Um, so Attack on Titan was the first one that I, to this very day, I have a distinct dislike for. Now, you're probably asking, well, what does this have to do with Kill la Kill? Well, here it is. Um, because it left, since Attack on Titan broke my streak, my decade streak of liking instant loving anime, I needed something sort of. I was looking for something that could really ignite my fire of loving anime again. Attack on Titan made me very depressed, and I was like, if this is the way anime is going, then I might not necessarily be otaku anymore. And then Kill la Kill came into my view and ignites that love for anime again. And on top of that, the main character. Not only the fact that I could see myself in the character because uh um not only I can see myself in as Ryuko. It's like it was staring like in a mirror. It was scary when I first saw Ryuko Matoi. But it helped me with one of the biggest hurdles that I have, which is self-image issues. Now, it's not as prevalent as it once was, but it put it put a at least a lovely spin on the fact of my self-image. I don't consider myself very alluring. I try to shy away. I'm not a really big, not the way I would like to be, but that can always be improved. Ryoko Matoi basically um, helped me with that hurdle. Um, like I said, for the longest time I've had body issues. I was considered too heavy or too thick to cosplay or, for anything, wearing nice clothes or anything like that. And because of her, I was able to break I was able to break away from that. I was able to cosplay. She was my very first character I ever cosplayed. Also, she helped me embrace my tomboy side. Because when I was younger, I always had a tomboy side. Heck, I don't think that aspect of me has ever gone away. But so long as, I was always worried about my tomboy side showing because a lot of cases, um, it seemed like a lot of guys that I knew or I liked really interested in women who were more feminine, that didn't carry that quality. And if they did have a quality, they mis mislabeled them. And Ryoko Matoi taught me to embrace myself. Especially that scene where Satsuki basically tells her that, if you're focused on your, of course I'm paraphrasing here, but The speech where she talks about the male gaze and she talks about you're worried about the botanical views of how people view you instead of focusing on your main goal. Your main goal was to revenge your father and find out who was responsible for the killing. But you're so worried about what everybody else thinks, you're distracting yourself from what you need to do. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. Because at the time, Ryuko was not okay with the way Senket took his form on it. It was very skimpy, showing a lot of skin. She wasn't really embarrassed behind it. But the more she started to embrace herself and embrace Senket and basically say F you to everybody who had, everybody and their mama had something to say about her, um, she became a lot more powerful. And she more gave me a look of the go hard or go home type mentality. No matter what other people say, you go hard and go home. And that's when I started cosplaying back in 2013, 2015. That's when I started cosplaying. It was my first cosplay. Heck, I even got a chance to do cosplay. Uh, was it cosplay deathmatch. I didn't get far, but the fact of the matter is, I managed to do something that I technically dreamt about doing for a while, and I'm very proud of myself. So, and then also it's nice to see a tomboy take center stage in a story, and not necessarily looked upon as a pariah. So, thank you, Ryuko. Thank you for teaching me how to embrace that aspect of myself. If you haven't noticed if you haven't noticed as well, I have a lot of sides to myself. I'm like in a Rubik's. I don't want to say Rubik's cube. I wanted to say like a diamond or a gemstone in different cuts and different sizes. But yeah, that aspect she let me, I was able to embrace myself. So yeah, thanks, Ryugo. So now we're getting to the top three. The top three, the cream of the crop in my lifetime, or those who are the most influential of the influential. And for the one who occupies the third spot, and a lot of people are practically going to be a little bit maybe shocked behind it because some people might argue this is the most relatable character I should have on my roster, but unfortunately it's not the case. And I have to say it's Sailor Moon who occupies spot three. Now, Sailor Moon, what can I say about Sailor Moon that every single otaku hasn't already? This character is, of course, an otaku icon. Being that she is in slot three, I hate to say that even though she's like one of the most influential, there's still a two others that are more influential than her on this list. But the reason why I love Sailor Moon so much is I love how much warmth she brought to my life, especially during a period where there wasn't a lot of warmth to be had. Um, I didn't have friends um, since my fourth grade class, and that was even doggy because it was just one time. I started middle school at this point, and middle school was a nightmare for me. A lot of changes were occurring during this time. Um, a lot of stress that was going on, in real life, and of course, being mistreated at school. There was just a lot going on. But one of the things that I could look forward to was rushing home after school to turn on Tsunami and watch Sailor Moon. Or Sailor Moon was the first in the Tsunami lineup at the time. Sailor Moon, and then you had Voltron or Thundercats, and then Dragon Ball Z came on at 5. I'm sorry. You had Voltron and Thundercats, and then Dragon Ball Z came on at 5 o'clock, and then they would have like Johnny Quest or another show, and then they would wrap it up for Tsunami. And this show was so much fun that my mom even would spend time watching the show with me. And even days when I got sick. And I was a little kid, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna miss Sailor Moon, and would sleep. I would wake up every other hour to make sure I didn't miss it. So, but luckily my mom knew that this was like the soap opera that me and her shared together, so she would turn it on for us. It was the best. It was fun. Loved it. So Sailor Moon herself as a character was just a fun-loving girl who enjoyed life. She enjoyed the people that were important to her, and she was kind to everyone, no matter what. Heck, she even was kind to some of the villains and able to change their point of view, which was great. That she was able to listen to their side of the story, even though they came from a different world or a different universe, a darker universe from ours, or a foreign universe, but she gave them the time of day and listened to what they had to say. And she was like, you know, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea we can be friends. And she inspired me to be kind and loving to everybody. And also the fact of the role of the guardian, which is nothing to be ashamed of. The role of the guardian is basically to protect the people around you that you care about and love very, very much so. And a lot of people, even at times nowadays where things look really, really dodgy, sometimes a lot of people think that your kindness is often looks for weakness. But she showed me that is not the case. That by her making friends later on, they ended up defending her when she needed it. When um, you had certain Sailor Scouts were acting a certain way, uh, kind of crude, but she had the support, she had the love, she had that love. It repaid. She repaid. Her love and kindness was repaid tenfold. So Sailor Moon remains one of the most hopeful animes, or one of the most hopeful animes, and one of the most hopeful characters and inspiring characters on my list too. So that's right. Usagi Tsukino or Serena, whichever you wish to call her, the English version or the Japanese version. Um, not only the fact she really inspired me. Actually, believe it or not only the fact that she inspired me as a person, she inspired me as an artist. A lot of my characters that I make was inspired in that style for me. So Usagi, aka Serena, whichever you wish to prefer to call her, thank you so much for basically being a hero and showing that being kind and loving is worth it. And giving me or inspiring me to be an anime artist and manga artist so I can achieve my dreams as well. So, yeah. So, moving on to slot 2. Now, everybody's probably asking, hi, Merciless, how are you? So, probably asking, Who can top Sailor Moon? Sailor Moon has been a trademark in otakudom for years. You see all their apparel to this very day, um, considered to be the pinnacle of the magical girl genre. Um, you've seen their merchandise everywhere, and it seems to inspire a whole entire generation of otakus. Yeah, that is true. All of that is true, but none of those things really could overtake this particular character. And this character that claims the second spot is Felicia from Darkstalkers, aka Night Warriors, or the Vampire Savior series. Goodness, I gotta open up my mouth more. Pronunciation. Anyway, um, Felicia from Darkstalkers actually takes the second spot and rivals over Sailor Moon. Now, a lot of people are probably saying, well, why is Felicia so high on the list? And this is definitely the reason why. Felicia, not only the fact has been the most influential video game character and continues to be so in my life. I'm sorry to, I'm not just taking away from Chun-Li as the first lady of video games now. Please don't misunderstand that. But Felicia introduced me to one of my favorite mythological wars, the Bake Neko. She encouraged and groomed my love for fighting games. And still to this very day, gives me a cosplay dream to chase after. I really want to cosplay her so badly. I love Felicia so much. But more so, Felicia, if anything, even more than Ryoko Matsui, Felicia is the most relatable character on this list. And here is the reason why. Her story is based upon discrimination, prejudice, and love and hope. Now, love and hope aspect, well, you get that from Sailor Moon. Yes, that's true, but this is from a different angle. Being that Felicia was raised, for a little synopsis and maybe some backstory about Felicia as a whole, Felicia was raised by a nun. She experienced discrimination and mistreatment by other people because of the fact that she was a dark side. She often questioned about her existence and why she was basically cursed this way. Even though, in many cases, to kind of debunk her negative thought patterns, she was often cared for her nun caretaker or her surrogate mother. However, because of that discrimination, she ended up staying home and watching TV a lot. And by watching TV a lot, she was inspired to become a singer and dancer and hope to bridge the gap between humans and dark circles. It's a little dream, but still a dream nonetheless. So, after her caregiver died, she got up the courage to chase her dream and left the church that she was raised in. And during her journey, she inspired other people to find hope and embrace themselves for who they are and to help each other. This story echoes volumes beyond it. This particular story is so scary. There's so many similarities to this story. It's scary because it pretty much echoes my life for the most part. It came from a religious background when I was little. I did communion and confirmation and baptism and all that. And then I dealt with discrimination and mistreatment from various different people. From, just from various different people, from all different walks of life. I was discriminated against, and I really didn't have a place to call home. But regardless, from all that heartache and mistreatment, I still got encouraged by the people who did support me. My family, my loved ones that I have to achieve my dreams. And here I am. So that's pretty much the long and the short of it with Felicia. Then also the fact that I'm a Leo as well. So I guess you can chalk that up with happenstance of being a Mecho, so to speak. So yeah, her backstory eerily echoes mine. On top of that, from an artistic point of view, she, if I had to, between Wonderland, between Ryoko Matoi, and Chun-Li, is all about embracing oneself. Felicia emphasized that even more so. Because of the fact that a lot of people, especially in Darkstalkers, a lot of the characters, especially with the women, are very exposed. Felicia is exposed. I will say that. Her design, she basically doesn't really have much going on except for basically stuff covering her sensitive areas. But when I first saw her, I fell in love in a way. I didn't see that defining her. I just thought she just looked beautiful. And a lot of people would continuously ask because I would post her all in my notebook. I would try to draw her and emulate her with my drawings and stuff like that. And a lot of people were constantly asking, well, where are her clothes? Well, I didn't care. In my point of view, just like the statues in the museum of various different ancient goddesses, um, I felt Felicia deserved a spot there. That she was able to embrace herself, exposed or not, and still remain positive throughout life. Throughout this discrimination, dislike, and hate. She still embraced herself. She still tried to help out others, and still remains positive. So, yeah, I would have to say Felicia is a huge inspiration to me, and still is to this very day. Because uh, every time I play a fighting game, I always look for a cat girl character because it just reminds me so much of her. Yes, I can safely say I have a long list of characters that I use, such as Misfortune, Cham Cham, Palkaka, Kokonoi, and even in the new game, I believe it's called Grand Blue. It's still made by Arcane, but there's two characters, mainly one character that I love named Fairy, and she has similar cat-like qualities. But hey, but Felicia will forever be a huge influence on my character as well as an artist. Like in Sailor Moon, Felicia inspired me from an artistic point of view to draw whatever I like, exposed or not. She influenced a lot on my artwork. It's something that I'm very proud of. So that's it for slot 2. And the number 1 slot, we're coming to the end here. The number 1 slot belongs to, I would have to say, Storm from X-Men. Now, I know that might surprise some people, maybe it might not surprise many, but this particular character, Storm, going back to my childhood days before I became a devout otaku. Of course, I love comic books, as you guys know. But as a child, I used to watch the Marvel comic book cartoons on Saturday mornings. Spider-Man. Oh, I was about to say Superman. Man, please, whatever you do, do not take away my geek license. Please, 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 please. But Spider-Man, Iron Man, and the most popular one, X-Men, was the first time I her, saw her. And like Felicia, I was automatically in love. Now, in my eyes, right off the bat, I consider she was strong, beautiful, and very caring for her teammates. This is one of the things that I don't necessarily like of the recent adaptation of Storm because she had a caring nature, and also the fact that she was what is it, second in command as far as leadership is concerned. So if Xavier was if Cyclops wasn't having one of his emotional breakdowns, Storm was supposed to pick up the slack. The way they portrayed her in the 90s cartoon, she was very elegant with her wording and often found herself reading a lot and just educating herself. Also, she liked tea as much as I did. So, um, but her caring nature is what really, really got me. And then also, of course, she was also one of the first characters that I've seen that looked similar to me. That was also a woman of color. Now, of course, back in the day, it didn't really mean much. It's just she was just beautiful, and then also the ability to control the weather was also very intriguing to me. Positive terrain and snow sounds really fun. But this is the person that I wanted to be. So much so that she was actually my very first Halloween costume. Now, some people might say that, hey, this was my first cosplay, and to add excitement to being Storm for Halloween, I went, ooh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I went to my very first Halloween party, which was an X-Men party. So everybody got a chance to dress up in their costume. Some person was dressed up as Wolverine, Rogue, Gambit, Cyclops. It was fun. I loved it. And then when video games started to have her with like X-Men versus Street Fighter and some X-Men battle games, I would always choose Time Blue. I love using her as a teammate on Marvel's Capcom series as an assist, and I would get really pissed off when people were able to pick her quicker than I could. She was my very first senpai before I even knew what a senpai was. It was crazy. And as an adult, I come to realize having such wonderful characters with strong and positive influences, some may argue, some would argue about how and why representation of different cultures is so important. I would agree with this, but I also have to highly emphasize a positive representation. Because some people might argue, well, okay, you put a little diversity in there, then that's it. No, it's more than that. Another thing that I love about X-Men, the '90s cartoons, was there was so much uniqueness to every single person that was there. Jubilee was adopted by human parents. Beast was a very intellectual blue furry guy. You had two Southerners, different from each other. Rogue as a Southern Belle, but there's a difference between a Southern Belle versus a Creole or Cajun Southerner from Louisiana, Gambit. Of course, Storm, and then you had the wild Canadian Wolverine. There were so many different types of people with such positive and positive traits and very dynamic aspects to them that it made it interesting. And also, if they don't have positive qualities, or if they don't have good characteristics, or they're not flushed out and they're just flat, it doesn't really mean that much when it comes to diversity. So Storm represents the best in me that I would love or continue to inspire to. And yes, I know there's so many different incarnations of Storm, like I mentioned earlier, but mainly the 90s version, the one with the white outfit and the shoulder pads, really emphasized, if not drove it home for me. So, yeah, she is basically the number one character that is the most influential in my list. Surprise, surprise. Oh, you called it? Yeah, next thing you know, it was betting money. Anyway, besides the point, but I wonder if you guys at the very bottom of this video, what is your most influential characters? What are the most important characters to you? Why, what characters drove you to be part of the different factors to teach them or being otaku? Um, I'm welcome to hear your guys' story. You can put a top 10 at the very bottom of the video or, in the comment section. Could be your top three. Could be your favorite one. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I would love to hear from you guys. Um, Also, if you guys love these types of live streams and when I get a little bit personal about my love for otaku and anything aspects of wisdom, suggest another topic down below. I will also do a poll on my Twitter account to see if you guys are interested. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for my live stream for today. Thank you guys so much for coming by and hear me rant and ramble about these wonderful, wonderful fictional characters. And I hope to see you guys a little bit later. Okay? I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. All right? I'll see you guys later. Bye.